All right, it's time to move on to Buy, Rent, Burn. This is the segment of the podcast where each of us brings a game to the table. We play through them, and then individually we give our opinions and decide which of those 3 games we would buy, rent, or burn. This week's selections, Andy has gone with David Crane's Amazing Tennis. This is a Super Nintendo game. We're looking at the Super Nintendo version anyway. It was also on Genesis. It came out in 1992. Justin has gone with Super Dodgeball. This is for the Nintendo Entertainment System and was released in 1989. And I've picked Super Spike V-Ball. This is for the Nintendo Entertainment System and came out in 1990. Andy, why don't you tell us about David Crane's Amazing Tennis?
Sure. I think we can wrap this up really quick because it says right in the name it's amazing, and your two are just super. So I win, I guess.
I mean, yeah. We're segment done.
Yeah. David Crane's Amazing Tennis is not amazing, I would say. That would not be the adjective I would use for the game, I guess.
Well, to be fair, David Crane's shitty tennis doesn't look good on a box. So.
Yeah. The reason I picked this game mostly is just because of the career trajectory of David Crane. He was a high-up guy in the Atari days, did a lot of programming, designing for Activision, which was kind of known for their developers and their talent. He is the creator of Pitfall, which is pretty much a mainstay in all of gaming.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of probably the most ambitious game on the Atari. I mean, I'm not well-versed in Atari, I guess, but I play that game today, and it's still like pretty impressive for what they pulled off in that game. And then he went on to then form a different company, separate from Atari, which he started with his friend Gary Kitchen, which is another kind of high-up guy in the days of Atari and Commodore. And they started Absolute Entertainment, and their first game was A Boy and His Blob, which we've already covered, and same thing, it was really ambitious for a NES game. Definitely had some flaws, wasn't perfect, but it was ambitious and totally different for that platform, I thought. And then from there, he said, let's do a tennis game. And
seems like a logical next step.
Right. Yeah. Not just like breaking barriers on like game design and how games are played and stuff like that to kind of a boring tennis game. Run of the mill, I would say. It's got some early 90s flair to it that I appreciate. A lot of pink, a lot of yellow, a lot of orange. So I like that side of this game. I think I've shopped at Foot Locker 5 times this week, just because I have this urge to. I don't know why.
Yeah, there's a heavy push of the Foot Locker brand.
Yeah, must have been a huge co-marketing deal on this game, I think.
I think there's if you look at the box art, I looked at some images, and there's a big frickin' promo thing tied into Foot Locker too, right on the cover art. So
really? Huh.
It goes beyond just the in-game promotion.
Yeah. It should have been Foot Locker's Amazing Tennis instead of...
Right.
Yeah. And then after this, David Crane went on to make some games like Toys for the Super Nintendo based on the movie, and Home Improvement, and a bunch of Simpsons Game Boy games that aren't that great. So you have to wonder if he was a fluke and the people that were helping him were the real talent, or if he just was kind of coasting at that point.
He didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
No. I feel like what they went with this game was to make a true to life, I'm watching a tennis game on TV, but in video game 16-bit form. It's definitely the focus is on the style and the look of the game, more so than the game mechanics. And I mean, it's clear, I've been playing this in just a few minutes. I mean, most tennis games you'll struggle maybe your first few volleys until you get a grip on the control, but there's just no solid or reliable control at all in this. It's just kind of a broken mess.
Right. I mean, the camera is basically at the same level as your player, where tennis most of the time is more of like an isometric view.
Yeah.
Just so you can see the whole field, I guess. And I will say, the animation and the graphics in this game are pretty impressive, especially that early on in the Super Nintendo. Big sprites.
Well, it's got nice large sprites, yeah. But I mean, when you've only got 2 of them, it's probably easy to pull it off, too.
Yep. And a lot of animation.
Actually, 1. Right.
Yeah, true. A lot of animation, but at the same time, it's like you can't just hit a button and make it happen. There's like a wind up to it. So, yeah, the timing on it was a little weird, or like
it's not consistent, I think, is the problem.
Right. I feel like when you press the button, an animation had to start then instead of just what you wanted it to do immediately.
Right.
My issue was the ones that you had to run to hit, and you feel like you are far enough, so you swing, and you're still like, you should have kept running for another, I don't know, couple seconds. Like it stopped faster than it seems like it should have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it didn't place you where you thought you were gonna be. I kind of feel like if like the graphics and stuff, are better than say if it would have been on the NES, but the gameplay behind it feels like it should have been NES to me.
Oh,
not Super.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no depth.
Yep.
It's super loose. It's bad.
Yeah.
Speaking of depth, you gotta love when you switch sides of the court, they don't change the camera to also be behind you again, so you're looking at yourself across the court at ground level. So there's no depth perception at all, and there's a big net in front of you.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, it's strangely easier to connect with serves.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's another point to where there's no consistency in the control scheme.
Yeah.
The perspective shouldn't change the timing of the buttons I press. It's dumb.
How many times did you hit the net?
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like to hear the voice clip double balls. Double ball. Honestly, the only part that I enjoyed with this whole thing was when the announcer, voiceover, said advantage receiver, and I just laughed like a little 8-year-old kid. That's the highlight of this game for me, right there.
It is.
Yeah. There was actually a lot of voice in this game, overall.
Yeah, a surprising amount. Yep.
But overall, yeah, not amazing.
No. Barely even tennis. Justin, how about Super Dodgeball?
Yeah, I guess I just kind of, again, picked this game out of the blue. I seen it was kind of a sports theme, so picked it, played it a little bit, and I don't think it's a terrible game. I think the throwing mechanic and you can't angle your throws; it just kind of throws however you want, or however it wants, and then the randomness, I guess, for where the ball bounces is kind of strange. But overall, I guess not a terrible game. I've played worse games. I don't really know anything about it before I played it.
That's funny because it's kind of a cult classic. Maybe not even cult. It is considered kind of a popular game, I guess, among NES collectors. It's got a ton of flicker. Probably some of the most flicker I've seen in any NES game. And yeah, like you said, the controls are. I wish there was more depth. There is an additional layer of depth. Don't get me wrong. There's more than just catching and throwing. There's a lot there. But yeah, it's just such a slow-paced game. And that's kind of why I've never really gotten into it. I think maybe if I was playing couch co-op, it'd be a little bit more fun, but on your own, it's such a grind. Everything controls decent enough, but I don't really want to sit there and play a 10-minute match of dodgeball against the CPU. And that was just round 1, on easy. Yeah. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was playing normal and progressing through the tournament.
I do like that you get the guys on the outside of the court on the other side. When they get out, they go to the...
Which is kind of bullshit, because you can't do that in real dodgeball. There's not some dick on the sidelines waiting to beanie in the side of the temple. Come on.
When we played it, they were behind you.
Right. You had to throw it over on them.
You get out, you go to the other side of the court, and then you could throw it over to them, and then they'd come back to your side.
Yeah.
They couldn't get other people out, I don't think.
What? But these are Bush League rules. I've never heard of any of this. When you played dodgeball and you just sat on a bleacher up in the corner... Did we play dodgeball wrong in Lisbon? I've never seen people in the back.
When we played, you get out, you go to the other side of the court behind the team you're playing against, and then you try to throw the ball to them. If the person that got out and is on the other side of the court catches it, they get to go back and play again.
Right.
Wow.
Which they probably don't do that now, because I think that was a huge safety thing, because all of a sudden you had the people, you had to look both ways. So you had to look at the people behind you, because they might have a ball, and then the other team obviously would still have some. So using those like rubber balls, you get smoked in the head because you weren't looking the right way.
Yeah. Your face is just like bright red all day, sore. I switched to the foam balls.
The last time I played dodgeball was in high school, and we had the rubber ball, and I had one that was like slightly underflated, so I threw it like fast, right? Like I'm just gonna drill this prick across, and he was a dick. I won't get into his actual name. It doesn't matter anyway. Nobody's gonna know who it is. But anyway, so I whip it at this kid. He's just a little punk, and it was underflated, so the ball curved because I put downspin on it, so it curved up, drilled him in the face, and then I had to do laps. And that was like that's my last dodgeball experience.
It was the best day of your life.
It was pretty good. He played it off like a little bitch though, and like started rubbing his face and like yelling. I'm like, suck it up, man. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. But anyway, dodgeball for the NES.
Yeah, it's nothing like the real dodgeball.
So there were actually people like I found that whole thing weird. Like not only the people on the side, but people on the back. I guess I had never played with those rules where you had people behind. So.
Yeah, I never heard of the one on the side, but
yeah, either. But back is how we played it. Then you come back. We also, I think they switched to where if you caught it, you could get somebody to come in too. But
yeah, that's what I remember is catching it and then somebody would come back. But it's dodgeball. We don't have to overthink it, I suppose.
Right?
Yeah.
Just dip, duck, dive, dip, and dodge, right?
I wanted to look up because I know they made a couple sequels for this game too, like for Game Boy Advance.
There's one in the GBA.
Yeah, yep. And DS maybe they made one too. I'm not sure, but it'd be interesting to see if they actually were able to speed that up and make it more of a fast-paced game. I could see it being a lot more fun then.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think as a couch co-op game, it's probably a lot better. But yeah, it's too slow for me to really enjoy it a lot.
Yep. It is a Kunio-kun series game, correct?
Yes. Yep. It is. Which made a whole lot of sense for the continuity of that and like the sprite work and stuff over in Japan. But when they bring River City Ransom, World Cup Soccer, and Super Dodgeball were the only ones we got in the US, and they didn't have any explanation as to why these sprites looked strangely similar.
Yeah. When the art was like more realistic on all of them, pretty much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid game though.
Yep.
And then, so my pick, Super Spike V-Ball, because they're too cool to write out volleyball. I don't know, there's something about this game. I played this a lot growing up. Large sprites, a fair amount of flicker again. It's a 2v2 beach volleyball game. Some of the things I like about this is the art style. Everything looks really good. It's got a good mechanic for the gameplay. Everything's about blocking, defending, setting up your next shot. And then the music is fantastic in it. And I actually really like the mechanic where when you're getting down to like the last 3 to 4 points, it changes tone and picks up a little bit. Kind of like go with the urgency of the match coming to an end. I think that's really cool. I will say it was a little difficult playing this again by myself. It's not a very good one-player game against the CPU, especially because there's a ton of depth when you're doing co-op and playing in the same team because you can have the guy in the back set up to dive and pick up missed blocks. But when you're playing alone on the CPU second character or second player always stands too far back and will never pick up anything that you miss on a block up front. So you're kind of at this huge disadvantage playing it by yourself. And I played like 3 games and wasn't able to beat the computer. But I don't know. It's still, as a co-op game, might be one of the best experiences in an NES game you can get, to be honest.
I would agree with that. I remember playing this many times. We had the combo cart with the World Cup Soccer or whatever.
Yep. And
me and my brother, me and friends would play it all the time, where you got 2 people on the same team going against the exact same setup that you had. One person up front to block, and he misses. Person in back is there to dive to catch it, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, same here. Kind of getting my wife into older games like that. That was one of the first ones that I picked out to nice. Play with her, and yeah, I think we both had a ton of fun playing that.
I'm just laughing because like I pulled that game out like when my wife and I first moved in together, and we used to do like video game nights every once in a while, and I pulled that game out so we could play it together, and it didn't go that well, and I ended up just yelling at her a lot for missing stuff, and she got pissed off and has not played it again since. But I'm glad it worked out well for you. That's great.
Yeah. Not to say that we played awesome. I'm sure it was just as bad. But it was the thought that counts, right? It's a great co-op game. Like you said, like playing it now I just played it, a couple days ago, and it's the CPU, like you said, just not not a very good teammate.
No, it's pretty pathetic.
Yeah. I do like the graphics though, and having that target on where that's going to land was a good addition to that game, because they could have just as easily said, just guess where the ball's going to go,
Yeah, it turned it from what would have been a terrible game to a fun game.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and for like a simple premise, I mean, hit, bump, spike. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of variation to what happens in the game, but just like the mechanics are pulled off so well, and just the whole blocking element, and it's so simple and so tight in the control department that it really makes it a great game to sink some time into.
The best part about playing this game for the podcast here was when I was playing it. My wife was down here, and she had looked back and seen the game, and she goes, "I'm guessing Ryan picked that one out. Half Naked Guys." She knows you, Ryan.
That's I got nothing. I was hoping you'd go with the very bountiful score girl, but I guess Damn it, you're on to me. No, I don't like that game anymore. I'm gonna burn it. Alright, so now that we've gone through all of them and humiliated Ryan, let's go back through and decide which one we would buy, rent, or burn. Andy, we'll start off with you.
Sure. For my buy, I'm going to take those oiled up men in Super Spike V-Ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun game for sure. It might be one of the best sports games on the NES, actually. I mean, there's a lot of good baseball ones, I would say, but Super Spike's up there.
Top 5 for sure.
For my rent is going to be Super Dodgeball. I probably would probably play that one more just so I could get a better handle on how it all works. I guess I did have some trouble figuring out how to throw it to the person that I want to throw it to, I guess. And maybe that's just random. I don't know. And then, my burn is going to be David Crane's Amazing Tennis, which is, like I said, not amazing at all. No.
Nope.
It's just the amazing part is that you would put your name on a tennis game when then, millions of people would look at that box and assume you're a famous tennis player. When
right now, that's what I was thinking.
Right.
No, I'm just a rock star programmer that decided to get into sports games.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's very strange.
Yep.
Justin, what are your picks? Or what's your ordering, I guess?
Well, for my buy, I am going to go Super Spike Volleyball. Just because that game is actually a lot of fun. Especially two people. Just used to play that game all the time. It's a lot of fun. Like Andy, my rent will be Super Dodgeball. It's a decent game. It's a lot of uncontrollable play, but it is a decent game. My burn is going to be David Crane's Terrible Tennis. And, the game is awful.
Alright, and my pick, no surprise. I am a little surprised that you guys liked Super Spike V-Ball. I thought maybe I'd be the only one who really had some love for that game, but I'm gonna go with those glistening men, and I'm gonna buy Super Spike V-Ball. Sammy knows me very well, and I would also rent Super Dodgeball, which I feel like a lot of people listening to this, if they're big NES fans, are probably gonna think we're crazy because, that game has a fan base. But Super Dodgeball, it's a decent and interesting game. It just doesn't really hold my attention. And then I'm gonna torch David Crane's lackluster tennis. And possibly David Crane, if he allowed me to. But that might be murder.
Might be,
I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. I think it varies by state, lighting another man on fire. So, we came to the same consensus
Yep.
once again. Kind of incredible.
Buy, Rent, Burn, sponsored by Foot Locker.